Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you? Who are you?
Who are you? Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you, madam?
It was a happy little accident that landed me in Wonderland for my first video. I watched the 1999 version of Alice in Wonderland, and I was mildly impressed, mostly because I've never seen it before. It gave me a little bit of a laugh. It inspired this video. As I started, all the other Wonderlands appeared.
Just a present.
I hardly know, sir. Just a present. I hardly know, sir. Just a present.
I hardly know, sir. Just a present.
I had no idea how deep the proverbial rabbit hole goes. I found it difficult to talk about one Alice without talking about the other Alices. And then even further down the line, when I was editing this video, I found it very enjoyable to compare and contrast all of the characters across the different versions and the decisions they decided to make for each one. Oh my god, what did they do to that cat?
Big Brother X.
It's become apparent to me that for the last millennia, every year or every other year, an Alice in Wonderland has released. If you're living now with us in these post-industrial times, and an Alice in Wonderland has not released that year, it wasn't a very good year, was it? I'm assuming turmoil or famine if Alice ain't coming down that rabbit hole. More accurate than the Big Mac Index. Almost like a groundhog for society. Let's pause and take this moment to realize that his face is not there. It's blowing smoke out of his nose. Right there. That's his face. The year is 1999, and your parents finally accepted that you're sick home from school today with bronchitis. You turn on that television after everyone's left the house. You take your recommended dose of Robitussin, and this is what you see. It's Hallmark's Alice in Wonderland.
Is this better?
Made straight to TV for NBC and then Channel 4. This actually won 4 Emmys. And after watching the movie, I've decided that I want an Emmy as well for this video. I thought the lead actor was a generic Andre the Seal girl. I didn't know that we had Miss Napoleon Dynamite herself.
Trying to earn money for college.
Your mom goes to college.
Tina Maharino's Wikipedia mentions she took a break between 1999 and 2004. I can only assume this is the movie that caused the break. It almost broke me.
I don't want to disappoint you and Daddy.
This is really just one of those movies that you could only get away with pre 9/11. There's an innocence to this movie, something that remarks upon maybe a more jovial times. One of those crappy daytime movies, maybe akin to Merlin. This movie represents a booming economy and an optimism about the future. I mean, why else would you spend $21 million for a Alice in Wonderland daytime straight-to-TV movie? I'm going to maintain throughout the video that this is still better than Tim Burton and the $150 million they spent for Johnny Depp to spew all over the classic story we know as Alice in Wonderland. Apparently the full movie is on YouTube, free and available. I'm sure the doors are busted down for people to see it. I'm always after this level of bad. It's like a stinky cheese on the back of your tongue on a weekday afternoon. And my main goal really is the TV cozies. So I'm really after these scenes and how they make me feel on almost a subliminal level while I'm making my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in my robe. Whether it's the scenery, the audio, the story, or just everything all badly blending together. I never read the books that Alice in Wonderland is based off of. I don't want to learn about some chick in the 1800s getting high. I'm too busy getting high myself.
I took a whole sheet of Hello Kitties.
I respect the 1800 grind though. They were all self-medicating on an industrial level at this time. A little Coca-Cola on their gums and chased Native Americans around. During this era, we would often deal with the black rectangles, tops and bottoms of the square TVs, because everything was starting to go to widescreen. It was right on the horizon. Only because the PS2 came with a DVD player, we got to experience widescreen like it was its very own microscopic movie theater. So with Alice in Wonderland 1999, it's almost like a reverse tribute. The black bars are back, baby, but they're on the other side of the screen. A monument to the 4:3 standard ratio. So this straight-to-TV movie has all of your classic Alice in Wonderland characters that you grew up with and love. The White Rabbit is a Five Nights at Freddy's nightmare. The Queen is a nightmare.
Stop losing your temper.
The Mad Hatter is a nightmare. The Caterpillar is lame. The Walrus looks like a sun-baked scab.
I weep for you.
The Cheshire Cat looks like a Whoopi Goldberg sleep paralysis demon that turns you into a volcanic nosebleed upon eye contact. Throughout the video, I will be comparing and contrasting 5 different versions of Alice in Wonderland. If any characters from any of these versions really give me the willies, we'll have to cover it. I'll try to remember to put the year in the bottom right. My main squeeze is going to be the 1999 one. We'll be following the narrative according to that version. I will not be making any hot references to these games, and I will not be covering these adaptations, although this one is very tempting. Really, this list makes my head spin. It's like looking at a CVS receipt, and I'm guessing it's so long because they even include the more ambiguous versions of Alice.
Maddie.
Like this one from 1988. It's absolutely creepalicious. I do recommend it, but I'm not covering it on this video because while all the other movies are like fantasy based and loosely fun, no matter what Tim Burton tells you, this one I think is a horror movie. The breadsticks are a real hellraiser. I keep imagining grown men hunched over taxidermy projects doing stop motion animation. This is the caterpillar. In a lot of ways, I think the caterpillar is an excellent litmus test to see what you're getting involved with. The caterpillar rendition of the 1999 movie might be the most underwhelming. He's obviously a Shriner. I would have been more entertained if Bill O'Reilly did this part.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live!
The most excitement was when it was time to go. Really, I think the actor did not sell that he was getting zoinked on a hookah.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
The crowd went mild. Not all was gone to waste. Alice did grab a gift.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
The caterpillar didn't have to be so complicated. You could just put Sammy Davis Jr. in a blue caterpillar suit.
Who are you?
Let me help you.
Sammy takes a fat rip, and they both turn instantly into the Hamilton musical. Well, Alice looks like a German Little Red Riding Hood. Across the pond, the caterpillar is a little more harsh with Alice.
Your temper.
I love that he's smoking a real hookah. It's just sitting there rolling with the hot coals on top. He looks straight out of the Mighty Boosh. And they just love long pauses in this version.
Think you're changed, do you?
I'm afraid I am, sir.
The 1951 caterpillar that we know and love is properly getting barbecued with the alphabet. He even knows how to share. He smokes big doinks in Amish country, Gandalf style, and he has his own set of lessons, complete with audio visuals. He tells Alice not to lose her temper.
Your temper.
And then he loses his temper. He even comes back after his metamorphosis to yell at her again. There's just something missing with the Tim Burton caterpillar. He did shotgun Alice Rip just then. I feel like he somehow lacks authority. No lessons, no poem, no metamorphosis. And just, I'm not sure if it's his size that diminishes him. He's just chilling on a leaf. I guess it's a good technical achievement. The animation has aged fairly well. It's void of soul. This scene was just so short, like all the character scenes on the Tim Burton version. Really, I think he just has Edward Scissorhands on his mind. So out of all of our participating caterpillars, I'm going to go ahead and rank them from my gut feeling 1 to 5. I'm going to have to give first place to 1986, The Mighty Boosh. Sammy Davis gets second. The cartoon gets third. Fred Flintstone, The Shriner, gets fourth. And Tim Burton with The Blue Wiggling Worm, who's lamer than the lamest granny, fifth place. How do you mess up Alan Rickman?
Come back. I have something important to say.
Počkejte, mám vám něco důležitého říct.
We start off with Alice disappointing her elders.
I can't do it, Nan.
Now we'll have none of that, young lady.
She doesn't want to sing Cherry Ripe.
Cherry ripe, cherry ripe.
How can you get your mate if you don't sing your cherry right?
She spies on the adults
How can they expect me to sing in front of all these strangers?
and gets a little foreshadowing of all the Wonderland characters she's about to go on a trip and see. At one point during the title sequence, it goes very Clue mystery murder dinner. So after she takes a gander at the strangers, she starts having a proper freak out. She runs out into the woods. She sees an apple, an existential apple, on the cusp of a revelation like Isaac Newton. As she's tripping, she spies a white rabbit with the uncanny valley effect cranked up to 100. She follows the white rabbit like Neo. She falls down the hole. They even do an inner monologue just when you thought things couldn't get better.
Now that I'm in, how do I get out?
I'm going to start off by saying that I'm just really not having a terrible time. This level of quality is cathartic as I watch Alice bounce around from situation to situation, almost like
The labyrinth. Doesn't look that hard.
or is the labyrinth like Alice in Wonderland? Back to Alice. She almost cries the rabbit to death. After almost drowning the rabbit, she turns herself into the size of a bug and almost drowns herself in her own tear tsunami. Somehow she just goes underwater and comes up and she's in a sewer. She gets dragged by a generic Peter Pettigrew, or Emmys, by the way. Can I have an Emmy for this video? In hindsight, I'm thankful for this scene. For instance, if we were exclusively focused on the 1986 one, we could be chin deep in an Alex Mack puddle. Alice takes a quick swim with the last group that left Burning Man this year. I'm feeling a little better about this movie when we get to the library scene. They eventually start breaking out into cheesy song. Obviously, it was too cool, too long. Little small soldiers come marching out of the books. They have a little race. For some reason, Alice has to cough up the prize. For some reason, she has Altoids. For some reason, they like the Altoids. This represents the 1800s, and sugar was a real delight. I think you got 1 cube per Christmas.
The cup of hot chocolate.
This movie is practically begging for you to just degenerate on the couch all day.
Dies for nothing.
Alice finds a pop-up book, opens that book, and goes into said book. Cozy Level 9000. This appeals to me because this is my specialty. Always on the lookout for obscure pieces of media that makes me feel like I've got the day off from work.
Wait, please, Jemima. You may be enjoying this, but I should like to get to my door.
I base everything I know about the 1800s off of the Alice in Wonderland story, actually. So right now I'm just assuming people in the 1800s walked around and ate everything they found. And that goes double for anything in a glass bottle. Every time Alice jacks up her size, the rabbit is somehow there just in time to have a heart palpitation. It'd be a good time to stop and talk about the rabbit. A cornerstone in the Alice in Wonderland branding, marketing, story, narrative. The rabbit in the 1999 version has very animatronic, jerky movements, very puppet-like, mechanical. Gets the revenge of Chuck E. Cheese coming to get me. He has a penchant for falling butt first into a little tiny glass greenhouse. All the rabbits do this in some form or function. But our Jim Henson rabbit does it twice. Truly a Jim Henson creation. Very reminiscent of what they did with the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle live action
Of course
movie.
he is. We all think he's alive. I don't think. I know.
I would say that 1985 Rabbit is a bad Halloween costume. On the edge of a furry convention after 6 days of tripping on mescaline. No food, no water. Start to see things on the edge of camp. This guy comes right on the wood line on all fours, and then he stands straight up, grabs your shoulder, stares into your face, and emits a radiant light from all of the orifices in his head. I've come to the conclusion that really all of the characters from this 1985 one are cursed.
You're growing, young lady.
If I was having a nice day with my cat, chilling at a picnic, and I saw that head come over that bridge, I would not go after him. There is a 0% chance I would have the urge to follow this thing into the woods. Alice does have the correct facial expression. Hey look, it's Scott Baio.
It's an arm, Your Honor. Did you ever see an arm that size?
Okay, while we're at it, hi Mr. Miyagi, hi Uncle Jesse, hi Mr. Jefferson.
I think this train's out of control.
Tum-tum!
They actually did a pretty good job in 1986 with the rabbit. It's still humanoid. It doesn't make me think that he's going to grab me and drag me into the forest. They kept the uncanny down. I could really picture this guy just enjoying some crystallized pineapple and tea. Some of the costumes are pleasantly surprising in this one. I've yet to see a rabbit hole that I didn't like, but this one might be one of my favorites. It's so eclectic in its practical effects. Someone did some mad garage selling to accumulate all those props. Unfortunately, they don't keep up the momentum. I would appreciate the 1986 version a lot more if Alice wasn't constantly running across, like, painted backdrops. It's always a green screen. After a while, it gets flat, and it starts being reminiscent of great performances PBS, Alice in Wonderland.
Why, Marianne, what are you doing here?
I discovered this version towards the end of editing the video, but surely, if this was the first version I saw, I would have exclusively done the entire video essay on Great Performances 1983.
It's the same thing with you, Dormouse.
And Great Performances only. Funded by PBS, created with a lot of permanent marker, paid for by viewers like you. Just imagine the socioeconomic commentary potential that this version provides. But hey, at least this rabbit isn't skittering across the forest floor in attempts to lure you into the thunder hole. The cartoon probably has the most agreeable rabbit. Small, non-threatening, studious. All around, nothing too exciting. A lot of Alice in Wonderland characters in this cartoon version represent the baseline bare minimum of what I expect from each one of these characters. He's kind of flat, predictable, boring. It gave me anxiety when I was little. This rabbit just has a level of powerlessness that I think just subliminally irked me.
Oh, my friend, whiskey!
It was obvious to me his thing was like a super serious adult who was pressed for time, a lot of chores. I think it was the pocket watch half his size that tipped me off to the whole time thing as a child. He's got the same voice as Mr. Smee.
Mr. Rabbit! Oh, my goodness! I'm late! Oh, don't go away!
He relies very heavily on his little horn, and he gets absolutely disrespected by the Mad Hatter and the March Hare.
I see what's wrong.
He gets the Stone Cold Steve Austin treatment. His possessions are ruined. Are you having fun yet? It does get to a point where I just want to yeet him out of my life. See you later, little bumbling rabbit. And it almost seems like Tim Burton's 2010 Rabbit suffers from the same ailment as a lot of the side characters in his version, but somehow a little more boring. It's like if the original characters were not inspiring, they did not get the Tim Burton inspired treatment. Are you Johnny Depp? No? Away with you. This thing could be farmed by the millions. It's so void of any kind of like inspiration. It's just generic White Rabbit A from Alice in Wonderland. Insert here. There's nothing really defining. Boring. I'm not impressed that Tim Burton slowly made him turn into Edgar Allan Poe as the movie went on. How did he go from looking like this to this? Is it just the lighting? Or has he been visited by the Raven? Okay, then it is time for the White Rabbit Awards. And first place goes to 1999, the Jim Henson puppet. Second place is the 1986 From Across the Pond, Charming, an Animorph at the mid-stage. Number 3 is really kind of the default rabbit, 1951. And we have for fourth place, 1985. His rabbit hole is full of lightning for some reason. And number 5, Tim Burton's, I guess, creature rabbit. I don't know. If you can't beat out the 51 rabbit, you don't deserve the beats. Back to Alice 1999.
Would somebody please help me?
And they do help her by throwing rocks. And this checks out because if I saw an alligator with its eyes closed flipped around on its back as a kid, I'd probably throw rocks at it. To help it, of course, some kind of CPR revival rock. And the rocks help Alice as well. They turn into something edible. She eats it. It's not in an insatiable little bottle this time. It was a processed little sugar trait, probably an Altoid again. And one thing I know about people from the 1800s, they cannot resist anything that resembles edible and made in an industrial factory. She goes completely Honey, We Shrunk the Little Girl from Waterworld. As she's living her little stint as one of the borrowers, she comes across Benji and outsmarts him. As I'm watching this, I'm trying to imagine exactly where the commercials fit.
That looks respectable. I wonder if they'll be able to give me directions.
We actually did not have to hear that inner thought because her actions relayed every little piece of that thought she had. I think the fish footmen and the frog doormen would have been great if they just left them as animals.
Play croquet.
I know it's Frogmouth, but it's giving me Whoville. The 1985 one just looks really crisp. The color palette is bright. They're using prosthetics. I'm a sucker for that. If you look real closely though, you'll be able to see that they're kind of just talking to each other through the mask. In 1986, they went with a softer color palette, but their mouths move. Their mouths move pretty good. I like the presentation, the frog head, the fish head, the lack of yelling through a mask. They do a lot of costumes well in this one. Not always consistently, but they did knock this frog mask out of the park.
I shall sit here on and off for days and days and days.
I shall sit here for days and days.
I do loosely like how they portray the frogs. I, too, would like a set of frog waiters in my house. They look a little too slippery for my taste. I guess I would have to fire them all and rehire toad waiters. The frog and fish footmen get skimmed on in due Tim Burton form. You can see the fish footman for just a few seconds like it's a blurry picture of Bigfoot. It just slithers right on by. And they're almost accessories. I feel like I'm always having issues with the size of the characters. And specifically with these frogs, they're almost like Spirited Away size, like right on the brink of being a Miyazaki character. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's where Tim Burton got it from, his Wind of the Willows frog and toad stealing ass. Shrink Alice so we can see the little guys closer. That brings us to the Frog Awards. It's between the 1985 and 1986. First place is 1986. That's the magic of moving mouths. 1985 takes second place. I like the colors a little more. Saying trick or treat through your Halloween mask isn't enough for first place in this case. Third place is 2010 with Tim Burton. The computer animation stands up. The script, the breaking from tradition, the timing does not stand up. And it brings us to fourth place is the 1999 humanoid frog and fish. Welcome to Whoville. And of course, 1951 didn't even try. Boo, Walt Disney. Boo. Dare you show me what you think the fish footman looks like? Show me now. It's time to talk about the elephant-colored cat in the room. The Cheshire Cat.
Please, could you tell me why your cat is grinning at me like that?
Cheshire Cats always grin.
I feel like they're trying to be shocking, but it mostly just makes me angry. Now, this wouldn't be the first Jim Henson creation that makes me go into the red zone and start screaming bees.
Yeah, it's bad.
I turn the labyrinth off 85% of the time I hit this song. It turns the rest of the movie into a slog. These vomit-colored creatures are so bad. Everyone thought they were so clever filming this. The sin here in 1985 is this tired green screen effect that I could do in my garage. It's not good enough. You can literally see the green pixels. When I was watching this part as a child, the vibe felt like it was Monday night and you got public school the next morning and you're getting sent to bed early with a pimento cheese sandwich for dinner. It's the polar opposite of Snick Pizza Night Friday vibes. This song makes me physically angry. Watching them move around and remove their limbs makes me want to pluck pieces of them and toss them into the tune barrel. It's okay. It's just Christopher Lloyd.
To scare. You!
Are you afraid of the dark? Tune in tonight at 9:30, 8:30 Central on Snick and find out.
But I digress.
So sorry.
And then the Jim Henson of 1999 is this try-hard computer animated cat that also isn't good enough and doesn't stand the test of time.
My pointed paw.
Look at that kitty paw. These days, they're still putting Whoopi Goldberg in everything.
What are you doing grabbing me like that and messing up my pantyhose?
My entire nervous system goes on red alert when I see the Whoopi cat. I can only describe it as the feeling I get when I see Cats, the musical from 2019, where they try to computer animate the face into almost cat leotards. They're very big fans of grafting human faces to cats. It's like the 1988 one wasn't good enough. They had to ramp it up because it's 2019. It's not even because they're cats, it's because they're tiny little homunculus cats. And it's like they learned nothing from 1999. And the Whoopi Goldberg cat was rewarded with 4 Emmys, so they probably thought this was a great direction to go.
Here we go!
Hello there.
I'm pretty sure Whoopi Goldberg just did this on a random Sunday afternoon while she was on her prescribed Xanax.
Things that look safe turn out nasty.
The 1985 version, they go full body Party City Halloween costume. I've noticed that all of the characters in general seem to be a lot more kind to Alice in this version as well.
There's no way home from this strange land.
I'm gonna go ahead and put my chip in. I like this one better than the 1999 cat because it's not reminiscent of the Cats musical from 2019. Even if it's reminiscent with the Cats musical from 1988, at least it isn't the 2019 version. Please don't give me the humanoid cat chimera. Now this version absolutely put their money where their mouth is. I think that is a human head inside that cat puppet.
Always grinned.
It's all practical effects, and I am pretty sure those are human eyes behind the mask. At some angles you look at it, and it looks like there's black pupils, like it's a puppet cat eyes, but then other times you can see him blink, and it took me way too long to realize it's the ride of a lifetime.
Is it which one you like? They're both mine. Anything that has a head.
This cat fights for his right to party. I've always been really not thrilled with the Cheshire Cat from the cartoon Alice in Wonderland. Much like the rabbit basically having Smee's voice, this Cheshire Cat has Winnie the Pooh's voice.
Some go this way, some go that way. But as for me, myself, personally, I prefer the shortcut.
And another thing that really aesthetically bothers me is this like little mustache that's growing. His whiskers are too short, and then I hate them showing the hair follicles. But really, it just looks like a tiny little mustachio growing in on a young man. What are they trying to do here? It drives me nuts. I don't like his attitude. Get him out of here.
But the waiting makes me cute.
The color palette is acceptable. The scenes I will remember as unique. I'm just White Rabbit levels of underwhelmed with this character. But you know, 70 years later, and he could sell pens still at Disney World. I don't condemn him to the tune barrel or anything, but it's just he's been there for so long, and then in retrospect, he's almost a prototype to the Winnie the Pooh character. There's just so much built behind Winnie. The cat is definitely going up against the juggernaut for his voice.
Most everyone's mad here.
And it's the same thing with the rabbit. It does make me want to snooze. While this came out in 1951, Peter Pan with Smee came out in 1956. So I guess technically the rabbit was first. I'm still bored to death. It's like the voice should be on the pirate, not the rabbit. And of course, this voice should be on the bear, not the cat. I don't know. Fortunately, the Disney cat proves himself to be a little bit useful. While nihilistic, there is a final purpose for the cat.
Oh!
I do like the Tim Burton cat. I feel like for some reason the cat is supposed to be on the edge of something eerie where, you know, if you look at it just right, it doesn't even look like a cat, but maybe an alien. This version accomplishes just that with flying colors. It is computer animated, but I think it holds up. Stephen Fry does an excellent job with the voice. I didn't even know he could reach tones that deep.
I was looking forward to seeing you futterwacken.
A lot of my criticisms with Tim Burton characters is that they have too little screen time, but obviously this Cheshire Cat was positioned to sell merchandise, so they march him around quite a bit. The ultimate sidekick. It doesn't bother me. Him sitting down at the tea party may have been a little much. I like the color, I like the aesthetic, I like how he moves, I like the things he says, I like the personality they gave him. I will now rank the Cheshire Cats 1 to 5. In first place, I didn't think it was possible, but it's the Tim Burton cat. This one is the one that passes the Uncanny Valley test. Eat it up, Tim. I don't think you're going to get another one. Number 2, unsurprisingly, the Bold, the Brave, 1986. They're the only ones that did what I was screaming to do from the beginning. Practical effects. Break out the puppet. Number 3, middle of the road, underwhelming, in some ways tied with number 4. We're gonna go with 1951 Cheshire Cat. Number 4, it's not bad, it's just pajamas, 1985. It was no surprise. You know her, you love her. It's the Whoopi Goldberg cat from 1999. Sleep demon extraordinaire, harbinger of your death and mine. 5th place.
Wish you wouldn't keep appearing and vanishing so suddenly.
We're able to move on after Whoopi is done flicking her tongue at Alice. They're like, oh, it's the year of Big Daddy and the Mummy, 1999. Quick, what do we do? Before I could catch my breath from the Whoopi Goldberg medieval cat, there is a puppet humanoid monstrosity that may or may not be a Garbage Pail Kid.
I beat him when he sneezes.
I'd make that noise too if my mom was giving me sneeze beatings. I'm wondering if the Nielsen ratings dropped to 0 right after this scene. So the 1986 version plays out just a tiny bit different. This one still has a Muppet Baby. They're really out of hand on this one because instead of just having a baby puppet, they just have a blanket, and then the Duchess is just kind of beating the blanket the entire time. I guess she said she would. Looking back at 1985, you realize they could just do anything. They used a real baby, and it turned into a real pig. And I mean that about the 80s and even the 70s. You just had to go for it. It's like, get the baby deer. Yes, it's got to be 2 weeks old. Yes, it's gotta be hand-fed. Natalie Gregory is gonna be hanging out with this deer. Break out the fog machine. Make sure the deer is still nursing. It's got some finger nibbling to do. If this was the 70s, it would have been real wild. This guy would be forced to fight a real-life Komodo dragon. Nothing will be more terrifying than this. They had to get a child old enough to know that he had to act like a baby man bear pig. So we move on to the next scene. We've got our golden boys, the entire forest, the tea party. Everything is showered in golden light. Makes me feel like I just woke up in Rivendell.
Is it blonde? We're missing a waitress.
The Jim Henson Dormouse. It's very reminiscent of the Jim Henson mice and the witches.
Dry roasted? Mm-hmm. Oh, all right.
They've got those real creep cookies that turn into turtles when they get close to your mouth. Would anyone care for a crab cake? But really, I'm enjoying Martin Short as the Mad Hatter.
I've been practicing.
I described this character as being night meh, but I would like to upgrade that to night huh. I feel like the longer I watch it, the funnier it gets. The mannerisms are well done. I agree with the head proportion. Something I might condemn the Queen of Hearts for on the Tim Burton, which is the large head. It works with the Mad Hatter. Maybe that's somehow the cartoon proportions play a part in my perception there.
Who's got his ear trumpet?
The March Hare is just some dude in a suit with a Jim Henson head on his shoulders. Looks kind of like a mule. These pair have a song and dance, second only to the Disney cartoon version.
Auntie's wooden leg, Auntie's wooden leg. We'll paint it red and call it Fred or Ned.
Tells the day of the month, but not the time.
They hand her a watch. The March Hare plays the tea organ, and a big, large, looming storm entices all of them to move on. They were on something dark when they came up for the concept of the March Hare and Mad Hatter for this one. The red-headed Mad Hatter looks like a bloated cadaver they found in a ditch. I can't stand that you can see the blue screen behind him. They should have just shaved him bald to make the chroma key work better. I think I hate the Dormouse the most.
If you can't be civil, you better finish the story for yourself.
By the time I got a whiff of what the Dormouse was about, I would only have been happy if a giant owl came and swooped it off its feet, and they found her bones in a little owl pellet weeks later. The Queen of Hearts had the right idea taking down the Dormouse. The March Hare isn't better. Kind of looks like a prosthetic rhinoceros behind.
Of course. Twinkle, twinkle.
Excuse me, what is this angle? I see your AstroTurf. Background music, don't worry about it.
Wonder what you're at. You know the song, perhaps?
I had a marginally better time in 1985, and that's how you do a thatched roof with muddy ears. It's a lot easier on the eyes than 1986. The Mad Hatter does look like he bites. The March Hare is marginally better than the White Rabbit, but is still a little bit of what the hell? Look, the nostril holes are painted up his nose.
Who's the stuffed animal?
Ooh, Alice roasted the mouse.
Stuffed animal?
What do you mean, Dormouse? You look like a plain mouse to me.
Got him. You can see it in his eyes. He's about to bite someone right now.
As a stickler for accuracy.
A stickler? You are?
Those are the things that upset me.
The Disney Mad Hatter and March Hare really come off as the most dangerous to me. I like the songs and the scenery a little better. The voices are unique enough. I associate that voice with that drawing.
To me. Oh, you. A very merry birthday to you. Who, me? Yes, you. Oh, me.
The characters themselves, the March Hare has kind of this beady little look. He just stares into your soul. The Mad Hatter is kind of mean as hell with a lisp.
Birthday. Well, no wonder you're late.
And I guess I'll just stand on they did the White Rabbit dirty. I'll never forget how they buttered the rabbit's watch and then slapped him so hard his mama could feel it. I assume I would sit down for tea, try to enjoy myself, and they would probably knock me in the back of the head with a ceramic teapot so hard I'd wake up days later in my own puddle of jam.
Oh.
Admittedly, they're not the most terrifying Mad Hatter, because that would belong to this group. These guys look like they would pick their teeth with my wet bones.
The faintest idea.
Nightmare blunt rotation. The Dormouse is always drunk or intoxicated, very sleepy. The Dormouse took their Ambien, and it seems the Mad Hatter and March Hare are more than happy to enable the Dormouse.
In the sky.
And it's time, the 2010 Mad Hatter, the main character of this movie, their #1 marketing juggernaut, Disney's golden boy of the 2010s. Every time he'd have a mega pint of wine, he'd get like a little yelly. He wasn't very wacky at all.
Thank you.
The Mad Hatter shrank Alice and just walked away with her on his hat, and we had to watch Johnny Depp jump around the screen for 35 minutes. Add this with the Johnny Depp flashbacks and the Johnny Depp dreams, and you have like over 45 minutes of Johnny Depp. We get to see a deeper Mad Hatter, quite frankly, against my will.
Arr, that's one way to get your money out of Jack Sparrow.
I don't like the screen time, the attitude. I could do without the sexual tension between Johnny Depp and Alice for some reason. I understand that both Tim Burton and Johnny are at a sensitive age where men are getting older and they need to feel like they're still desirable by women in their 20s. Life's not worth it if they don't think that the breeding pool is applicable to them well into their 70s. I've seen Edward Scissorhands. This is how he flirts. So I guess that's why any Sleepy Hollow babe that comes in his crosshairs, he's going to give the stare down to. There's not enough defecation in the bed that will ever fix this. They wrote him a blank check after Jack Sparrow, and it's been meh ever since. Creeps me out like the Johnny Depp Wonka creeps me out. When you watch it, you realize that a lot of decisions were maybe of the time, as opposed to being timeless.
You're really weird.
And let's not even take my word for it. Let's give it to the mob. Yikes, 51%? I agree. 1971 spurred a lot of antique memes. 2010 spurred the beginning of the end of Johnny Depp's career. I can't even find a blank meme template for this version of Willy Wonka. I can only find these ancient little kitschy personal memes. Trust in the archaeology, people. Happy birthday, Dakota. March Hare looks properly bonkers and properly like a hare. He likes to throw teacups at your head, and somehow he gets a free pass. The villains let him do it. Johnny lets him do it. Alice is just gracefully. I would wring this rabbit's neck the first teacup that came barreling at my face. He'd have a reason to look like that, and the reason would be oxygen deprivation. Next up is this dance. The pinnacle of cringe. It had me gripped to my couch. It was thick like 200 pounds of blue cheese pinning me to the sofa. Great as that for Johnny. He doesn't even have to get up in the morning and choreograph this. He doesn't even have to learn the moves. He can just kind of sit here with his body and flail it around, and they just do everything with the computer. Everyone stands around like they're really happy about this dance. It reeks of fellow kids, and I died a little when I saw it. All right, it is time for the Mad Hatters to get ranked. In first place, drum roll, Martin Short, 1999. Second place is 1951, the cartoon. Probably a little better than Default. It's still kind of the median Mad Hatter in my mind. To number 3, Tim Burton, Gilbert Grape. And the Depp would have placed lower, but the other two is just so bad. Either way, your time is up, blank check. 1985, fourth place, He May Bite. Borderline incoherent. I can feel the specks of spit flicking onto my face as I watch him. And fifth place, you know him, you love him. It's the 1986 Mad Hatter that they found from the bottom of the dead marshes. Frodo! And so we get to the Rose Garden. The Queen has a shaved head and painted on hair. The more I watch her, the more I appreciate her, much like Martin Short as the Mad Hatter. While this queen might be an acquired taste, while disturbing at first, all of the screeching starts to become funny. All of the auxiliary noises that she makes, I'm having a good time. Come on then! I like how they spun the king too.
This is the king.
Me too, buddy. Me too. There's similarities between this movie and the Disney one. Some of them are more apparent than others, so one example is the flamingo. Just the handling of the bird seems similar. I'm guessing the director watched the Disney cartoon movie before going to work that day. Maybe that's canon in the book, the old Mingo grip. I think they actually used a dead flamingo for this one. Did they tie a string to it? Whatever the king is doing right now, if I was Alice, I would have mad disrespect for the guest in the real world that represented that king. Mr. Mustard, why were you blowing that flamingo's grundle?
I heard the Queen say you deserve to be beheaded.
A lot of characters are fundamentally the same between the different versions, but I feel like there's the most variable with the Red Queen. The motives and how she interacts with the world, and how much of a tyrant she is even, how seriously she's supposed to be taken, are all kind of variable between all the Alices. Compare that to something like the Caterpillar, or even the Mad Hatter, where there's a list of phrases they all seem to hit, an angle they all seem to come by. And while we're at it, the Disney Queen, I've always thought was a pretty good villain.
And a king.
Probably the character with the most presence in the 1951 version. Explosive in energy. Cruella de Vil in nature. You're only going to have a good day if she's having a good day.
Consider, my dear, couldn't she have a trial?
They do kind of rely on the ugly woman trope.
Did you say butt? Give you butt.
Think she'll make the fence?
The marketing gravity behind the Queen of Hearts in this version has a pull probably second to only Alice. I feel like my blood pressure raises alongside hers. That's what we call being an empath.
If I lose my temper, you lose your head. Understand?
This is the peak of this movie. And, you know, I turn my back for a second and then look over, and here we are. 1985. They do have the White Queen. And, oh boy, I think she's on Valium. And I think that's part of the joke, right? Why else would they mess up her hair, smudge her lipstick, and send her out on set? I feel like I'm slurring my words just looking at her. Even Alice is confused. We're not ranking the White Queen, we're going to rank the Red Queen. But if we were ranking the White Queen, this prescription-driven song and dance would take home the gold. Hang on, Alice, the White Queen went out for Sunday brunch, and she's back from bottomless mimosas.
It's dreadfully confusing.
Like many of the characters in the 1985 one, the Queen seems a lot kinder in this one. You can't be screaming red in the face to a youngin'.
And stop twiddling your fingers all the time.
She gives off the vibe of maybe an overworked, stressed out first grade teacher.
What do you mean your way? All the ways around here belong to me.
Come with me, child. It is time to learn about adjectives. I thought she was the only one that took Alice on a speed run, but it seems like that must be in the book. Grabbing Alice by the hand and running as fast as you can is a favorite pastime of our queen here. Also, as I'm looking at all of these different versions of Alice in Wonderland, it's become apparent that the checkered grass must be in the book. The queen is but a chess piece and the world is the game board, man. When you lay your eyes upon the king and queen from the 1986 one, you instantly start smelling mothballs. The king and queen kind of look like Wormtongue has been whispering in their ear.
He's a herald of woe.
Least threatening tyrants, because I assume I could just run circles around them.
Removed. Off with its head.
The powdered makeup makes them look quite mummified.
Off with his head.
Not awful, not great. They're just there. I think Bellatrix has gained the most out of this movie. Admittedly, that's like saying the person who got the most water from squeezing the stone. This actor takes on the big head burden. Since Johnny Depp is the Mad Hatter, they're going to only engorge his eyes a little bit. The golden boy has got to be oh so kawaii. They wouldn't dare make him the big head one, but they still somehow want a big head character, so they decide to make the Queen of Hearts the big head character. That's They also give her kind of like this lonely cat lady angle where she's constantly subservient to sexy Kylo Ren. Since she has a large head, everyone wears prosthetics to make her comfortable. Like I said, there's variable in the queens.
Off with his head!
All right, it is time for the Queen Awards. And for first place, she can throw a mean shot put. It's the Queen from 1951, the cartoon. No one has the marketing gravity.
For me. For you.
For second place, the Queen that has grown in my heart like a fungal spore. It's 1999. She screams, she beams, and the cornrows are painted on. Number 3, and it's probably tied for number 4, but I would say Tim Burton's Bellatrix, 2010. Number 3 gets the bronze. Up next, number 4, 1985, our chess piece queen. She loves that cardio. That leaves number 5, the musty, the dusty, the moth, 1986. If you ever wanted to know what mummy breath smelled like, this lady would probably be able to deliver.
Come along now.
There's certainly a zest that was lost. Or maybe it's just the naive 90s in full effect. Oh look, it's the Skeksis.
Hello. Yes, please, come to the castle, please.
And I could only describe it as this. Gene Wilder slurming out as a turtle. Not too turtly, because we gotta know it's Gene Wilder. Alright, Gene, we have this Alice in Wonderland rendition. It's a classic. One last chance to preemptively strike at Tim Burton before he gives you a tidal wave of shit all over your legacy. Just a real sly steamer on your chest. We have Whoopi Goldberg, we have Martin Short, Christopher Lloyd. You're going to be the star, Gene. Have you heard of Andre the Seal Girl? They spent the entire budget on this. These crappy songs, they've got to be in the book. They're terrible.
Will you, won't you join the dance?
Why do I keep hearing about soup? Was that in the book? Were they, I'm guessing, very hungry in the 1800s? Soup was good. That'll be stuck in your head like an earworm. You can thank me later. The 1986 one, it has complete nightmare fuel as the mock turtle. He actually looks like the manifestation of 1,000 screaming baby cows. If you were wondering, yes, they do dance and sing as well.
Will you join the dance? Will you join the dance?
They are absolutely beating the hell out of this cosplay setup.
Could not join the dance. Could not join the dance. What matter it how far we go? His scaly friend replied.
These wings were meant to go to one Comic-Con one day, yet these wings are getting the workout of a lifetime. The feathers are screaming for help. The tail is screaming for help. I'm screaming for help. The Griffin and the Mock Turtle are marginally better in the 1985 Alice.
Oh, my dear. Once I was a real turtle.
They even got Ringo to play the Mock Turtle.
What is so good about never once being?
You get double the points because he's not a cow masochist. Disney apparently gave it a go in 1951, but it did not make the final draft. They later let the Mock Turtle live via a Jell-O commercial because the reins of capitalism do whip hard.
Can I entertain with a Jell-O?
My top pick for Mock Turtle would be Gene Wilder. He sang the longest, had the most consistent performance. His costume didn't make me think I was watching The Shining. He's accompanied by a griffin made by Jim Henson's company. Second place goes to Ringo. He's got a set of pipes. His costume was not screaming out to me for help. 1986 earns third place. The song was booming. They were jiving. Masochist Cow was memorable. Their costume was falling apart and they will haunt my nightmares. Disney gets fourth in 1951 because the Jell-O commercial. Tim Burton doesn't place because he didn't even try. Boo, Tim. Boo. Show me what you think the Mock Turtle looks like.
Who for such dainties would not stoop? Soup of the...
Alice is still very concerned about this song she has to sing. She sees it everywhere. Get it? They're knights, so it's Bojack riding Roach. The red and white knights slap each other a bit with the flails. I think this is fan service for the bronies. Great Scott.
That was a glorious victory, wasn't it?
It's Rick. Back to the soup. Everyone is obsessed with soup.
He's as strong as soup around here.
He does seem like the kindest character on this version.
Carry it upside down so they don't get wet.
You should have seen what the White Knight was up to before he was employed by his queen. He looks dirty by profession. It's hard to believe they're the same person. That apple looks delicious. You gotta love the practical effects of the 90s. They didn't have to rely on all of those computer gimmicks that George Lucas loves so much. I wish I could say the same for the Cheshire Cat. In the early 90s, everything was practical, and you could really reach out and pop a prop. In our movie, however, Jim Henson's Creature Shop only had the strength to make 3 flowers. Say what you will about the mouse, but at least he gets more than 3 flowers done. Flower scene is my favorite part in the 1951 cartoon movie. It's just so grand millennial. The background, the flowers. The 1950s, these are clearly beatniks, baby. You're not smoking those jazz cigarettes, are ya? Why are those flowers playing drums? The little jokes within the flowers. The puns are in the scenes.
Horsefly.
They use this part as an opportunity to really show off the color palette of the entire movie at once. Comparing it flowers to flowers, 1951 versus 1999, the 1999 one is absolutely dismal. We are just kind of out in the middle of a grass path. I just wish there's more than 3 puppets. That's it. Sell them to Disney.
When your room looks kind of weird and you wish that you weren't there.
In due form, we have people in flower costumes to interact with Alice.
Excuse me.
I'm seeing a common thread of tiger lilies and roses. Probably the best set. I roughly approve of the Golden Girls. I love how the computer effects are at a minimum, so they actually have to build the set, and you know, those are probably fake flowers. They look real because the resolution's not high enough. I'm sure they don't have grow lamps on the set. Much like the Red Queen, the flowers don't get as saucy with Alice like they do in 1951.
She's our petals. What a peculiar color.
I think she's pretty.
Quiet, bud.
And I guess that'll teach you.
And here comes the Tim Burton version, which I guess at this point has mastered the art of edging all of the characters right off the screen if they're not Johnny Depp or if they're not meant to move merchandise like the Cheshire Cat. I think the flowers got roughly 45 seconds. I think one of them said 4 or 5 words.
Exactly. Absalom will know who she is.
I've officially been talking longer about the flowers than they've made it into the movie. The flowers in Jumanji had more personality. This one was in the movie longer.
Harvest time!
Who was the best flower? Wait a few seconds and you will see. Number 1, and they're on a roll here, it's the 1951 cartoon. The art style is great, the color palette is great, perfect screen time, they've got a good song, there's little puns, they all got along until they didn't. Number 2, I'm going to give to 1985. I really like the set, the practical effects are great. I'll take the flowers and leotards as long as we're doing practical effects. Number 3, underwhelming, 1999. My most precious Alice in Wonderland did not make the cut this time. While there was maybe an appropriate screen time, the characters were lackluster. They looked like rubber gloves. Investors saw these and decided, just sell it to Disney. That leaves number 4, Tim Burton. I can't describe the immeasurable disappointment. Maybe 45 seconds And I know that Tim Burton himself is trying to sell this thing where this is Alice's actual second time in Wonderland, but I'm not falling for it because the caterpillar says the coveted,
Who are you?
He didn't say that twice. The Zaza in his chimney ain't that good. He's not just sitting there forgetting people. This is not a sequel. This is a remake. You're getting judged flowers to flowers. In 1986, they don't even place. They didn't even try, which is surprising how many murals they've hand painted and green screened onto the movie. You'd think they would paint a few flowers on some wood, shake it around at Alice. If you don't do the flowers, you don't get the powers. Hey, look, it's Hagrid. They're not twins, but don't hold that against them. It's nice that they're roughly the same height. I'm not sure if one had to be put in platforms. They do deliver a poem to Alice.
Scrow, you recited that poem very nicely.
This might be an acquired taste too, but I start liking the goofiness. If your expectations are low, they will deliver. And even after the Carpenter and Walrus story, they have more activities after.
Is that a lion or a tiger?
A liger.
Is that a Kong toy? So after looking at the prophylactic, the Tweedledees fight over a rattle, I guess? Hagrid needs it.
It's been trained to expect pain when it hears the noise.
The rattle in the mud really stirs up some Tweedle drama. The D's go down hard due to lack of cardio. They give you a little more to chew on with these Tweedles compared to the other ones. It's apparent that the Tweedles, no matter the presentation, have some kind of wisdom to drop. Unless it's the Tim Burton Tweedles. These two are incapable of delivering a walrus poem, so they do not. Go ahead and relax, Tim. You're on vacation. Maybe he was thinking, in the Alice in Wonderland story, there's the Humpty Dumpty egg in some cases, and he decided to merge the two characters maybe. These two are void of any personality, bumbling, barely capable of speaking.
You can't even speak, can you?
Unable to deliver any life lessons, these little butter beans only add to the giant pile of Tim Burton's sins. Enter 1951. These two always kind of confused me as a child. I always looked at the flags on top of their heads. It's like, are we at a golf course? I don't know. Their uniforms look extremely uncomfortable. It's like some kind of private golf school. They move around and resemble maybe 1960s classic Looney Tune cartoons. Roughly void of personality. I guess I can't complain about them design-wise. If you're going to make them flail around like balloons, I guess you should do it when they're animated. While they come across as quite nihilistic in the cartoon, they have a little bit more to say than the grunting Tim Burton Tweedles. Their real saving grace is that they at least go through the Walrus and Carpenter story. And they might do it the best. Other than that, I am roughly underwhelmed. They show up towards the beginning of this movie. Their screen time is only 3 minutes, and then they go to their story.
Our old father William, the young man said, and your hair has become very white.
They don't even really seem to notice when Alice leaves. And that's good, because I'm ready to move on too. These Tweedles makes me thankful for the 1999 Tweedles, because at least those Tweedles have kind of the stature of what they were trying to go for, maybe in this one even. I think they just put pillows under their shirts to give them that Tweedle look. Now, I don't know who these people are. They do pause on them for a long period of time, so, you know, there's probably some stardom here. Maybe these are comedians.
Waxworks weren't made to be looked at for nothing.
I'm really sorry. Now, I'm thinking it's so exhausting that, like, everyone, all the adults only have to remember one dance number. But poor Natalie Gregory, she has to choreograph every single little dance. And, you know, she has to do it, it seems, for that star's ego. They're all out for screen time. I don't care that you're tired, Natalie. We're giving it 110% for my bit. Quit missing your steps. It's 1, 2, 3, shake. 1, 2, 3, shake. Now these two do have a Walrus and Carpenter home. Thank God. I had no idea it was an option just to leave it off. So instead of just reminiscing about the story, they opt to just creep up on the Walrus and the Carpenter on the beach in real time. It is time for the Tweedledee and Tweedledum Awards. In first place goes to 1999, A Slam Dunk by Hagrid. Second place goes to 1985, The Couple from That 70s Show. Third place goes to 1951, the cartoon animated movie. It might be because it's been around so long, it's just kind of default in my head, and then these characters creep me out a little bit. They look like they're capable of gnawing my beak.
Why? What did happen to the oysters?
Oh, you wouldn't be interested.
And that leaves fourth place, Tim Burton's Little Butterbeans. Please get them out of here. No redeeming qualities, except for the double-edged sword of a short screen time. It's 1986. Didn't even try. A shame. A shame. I'm starting to see a trend here for 86. They're almost Tim Burton-esque in their willingness to cast characters aside. I think their budget was 2 Band-Aids and a paperclip though, so roughly forgiven. They're still going to get the boo, boo. Get 2 staff members, shave their heads, and let them frolic. Boo.
If you think we're waxworks, you ought to pay, you know.
When I was a kid, this was always the most visceral part for me. I was very confused, conflicted on the side. The oysters were very adorable, yet the garnish scene made me very hungry. Any kind of deeper meaning or lesson that's supposed to be learned was lost on me, but I did get the hungio-bungies watching that soup. The Walrus was absolutely predatory, and when I was a kid, I knew he was predatory, but I couldn't put words to it. It just made me feel funny. The mother oyster is extremely incompetent, alarmingly so, and that frustrated me as a kid. I just didn't get it. She does really look old in hindsight. This must be her 80th batch of children. Like, Mama Oyster tries to intervene, and I guess just a little dash of cigar ash and a slam shut on the shell was all it took. And just like that, you're going to have to replace those babies with an 81st clutch. In 1951, the Carpenter is a very hard worker. He puts together the garnishes, he Minecrafts together the entire house at Record's pace. And of course, while he's preparing the garnishes like a sneaky drunk friend that you haven't figured out you need to banish from your life, the Walrus drops this classic line.
I deeply sympathize. I deeply sympathize.
I deeply sympathize.
It's obvious now that they were trying to say something or another about fake sympathy. Absolutely lost on me when I was a child.
Everyone!
The Carpenter was obviously very hungio-bungies. I have not seen anger like that since the Red Queen. There's gotta be some bread left with broth. And even the outro to the Walrus story is great. Back to 1999. The Walrus looks like a bug on a windshield. The clams that he's noshing on looks like blue jello with scrambled egg in the middle. This does not make my top 12 fantasy movie foods that I want to try.
The butter's spread too thick.
I feel like they're going to die Elvis style at the dinner table, much like the cartoon. Everyone's heavy breathing. As they're pawing their jello egg, they have a bewildered look in their eyes. Watch the egg fall from his lip.
Those of the largest size.
This part of Alice in Wonderland really makes me question my connection to reality. It's the most trippy part. Those little crunchy croutons might make it to my top 12 fantasy movie foods that I want to try. These clams start talking back when they realize they're getting eaten.
After such kindness, that would be
They showed a little more resistance than what these clams decided to do, which was to sing to the Walrus and kick their little feetsies at him. The Walrus looks like a pimple about to bust. Is that supposed to be a Carpenter, or does he just run a deli? What is he looking at right now? The Walrus is looking at the oysters. The Carpenter is looking at his feet. everyone will be relieved to note that the song they sing is really boring and bland.
The briny beach, we cannot do with more than four to give the hand to.
Don't act like y'all are having fun. Maybe they are. It's the one song that Natalie Gregory doesn't have to break it down to. They're very excited they found these purple-cladded ballerinas out on the beach. Those oyster shells look pretty dank. If I saw that at a cosplay event, I'd be like, dank.
Such a kindness, what a dismal thing to do.
After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do.
After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do.
But as for me, the butter's spread too thick.
Look at this. The butter's spread too thick.
I was waiting for some type of big reveal, like on the 1951. They zoom in on the oyster shells. I had to rewatch this a few times to realize what in the world happened for like the big feast. And this is exactly what happened. We're watching it. The walrus with the clams exits stage left. The walrus and the carpenter exits stage right. I love how these two adults showed Natalie Gregory unspoken horrors in real life. And then they're like, I don't know, that's fake sympathy, I guess. Look out for it. They give each other snoochy boochies. And the walrus runs back into the sea. And then Natalie Gregory goes, that's nasty. And then she runs off. Break that fourth wall, kitty. They were not on the same page. Tweedledum's like, what camera? Oh, fuck it. I thought I was supposed to be the caterpillar. I came in high as hell. And that brings us to the Walrus and Carpenter Awards. Although I'd like to primarily focus on the Walrus. I think it goes hand in hand. So first place goes to 1951. Oh, they're on a roll. Third gold. Hey. The word of the day is visceral, and that's the type of reaction this cartoon got from me at some point in my life. None of the others could do that, would do that, know how to do that. Number 1, 1951 cartoon. Number 2, 1999. Now I said that he looked like a sun-baked scab. He's the only sun-baked scab we've got. And at least you get to actually see the meat. That's a plus. It's gross. Number 3, 1985. With all of the quality of a high school play, I'm guessing they just chose a California beach. They stomped up and down it with people in purple tights. Which, you know, I can't complain because the other two didn't even try. Boo! Boo, Tim Burton. You can't even make a computer animated walrus. Boo! And then 1986, I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't try. Maybe we're getting off easy, not looking at the unspoken horrors they would have come up with.
Those of the largest size.
But younger oysters hurried up, all eager for the treat. Their coats were brushed, their faces washed, their shoes were clean and neat. And this was odd because, you know, they hadn't any feet.
At this point, Alice gets chased by what was ever chasing the people at the beginning of Lost on that island. That brings her back to the Queen. Because why wouldn't it? All roads lead to the Queen of Hearts. It is time for the trial, which is in every Alice in Wonderland, I think, except for the Tim Burton one. If you see one thing from the trial, it should just be this.
Twinkle, twinkle, little gnat, how I wonder what you're at. You are very small indeed, you cannot shut my sleep.
Apparently, they're going to execute Jack.
I confess, I didn't do it.
In true form, Alice is minding her own business, but they're obsessed.
Alice!
Alice takes a taste of her mousecatool. And of course, like many of the movies, this evens the playing field as she's able to get eye level with the royal tyrants.
I don't like being called up here like this.
Alice stands up to the Queen. Alice stands up to the King.
Off with yours.
The rabbit knowingly looks at her and asks her,
Are you so confident, young lady?
Yes, I am.
Then you don't need us anymore.
The rabbit was the harbinger for this world the entire time. The existential spinning Newton apple comes back and starts tearing the fabric of Wonderland itself. The house of cards fall as the scene turns into an I Spy book. A mission accomplished sound should be playing across the screen.
Ah, come on, Benji. Let's go.
It's okay that you attacked me when I was 3 inches tall. I only defecated myself twice. Here's Alice in the real world, showing all the adults what she learned while she was on drugs in song form by finally not singing Cherry Ripe. Instead, she sings the Wonderland #1 pop hit, Will You, Won't You?
Won't you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance?
Would not, could not, would not, could not, would not join the dance. Would not, could not, would not, could not, could not join the dance. Will you, want you, will you, want you, will you join the dance? Will you, want you, will you, want you, want you join the dance?
In 1999, singing Cherry Ripe was the issue. In 1985, everyone treated her like a kid, and they would not invite her to tea time.
To join the grown-ups at tea?
Yes, Mother.
During the trial, Natalie Gregory actually fights the entire card army. It gets vicious. After she's finally invited to tea by her mom, all of the Alice in Wonderland Dollar General characters come and sing to her. A great song. They make this poor child actor try to act like she's crying. As if this little girl would give a damn about this furry convention. In 1986, they cop out with a flutter of cards and a nightmare shake. She just wakes up. There really didn't seem to be a problem to begin with. And this parallels the 1951 version. The Queen of Hearts chases Alice right into the wake-up zone. And I think her issue was that books were boring and she just wanted to play with her cat. I'm pretty sure she still thought books were boring afterwards. In Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, she kind of coasts through and gives everybody a piece of information they needed to hear.
That is no prince, Aunt Imogen. You need to talk to someone about these delusions.
But not only did she solve her problems, she solved other people's problems, and then she started to go out and find solutions. And one of them was to expand her father's trade route, which I'm pretty sure resulted in the Opium Wars. Sleepy Hollow Alice is a real mover and a shaker. Oh look, Alan Rickman did metamorphosize. And I guess I've got nothing profound to say on this angelic classic of a story. After watching every version of Alice in Wonderland I can get my hands on, a deeper meaning started to surface. This is a story of looking inward. Once she figures out who she is and what she wants, the volume gets turned down on the rest of her issues as she has a new perspective. Each character represented a hang-up in Alice's life. If you know yourself, then you know the world. Only then what seems impossible will become possible. Hell, this channel is an impossible thing.
Sometimes, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast.
Behold, it's the gold that each character won for their corresponding movie. Almost like an Olympic team. 1999 came in first, 51 came in second, and I'm sure you can see the rest. It's kind of a winner-takes-all situation, so we can break it up a little bit and go to a point system. This creates a buffer as second, third, and fourth place are worth something. So looking at it through that lens, these are the points that each movie version has earned. When we rank that from highest to lowest, 1999 is again on top. 1951, the cartoon, is coming in second, but third place, 1985, actually bumped up quite a bit from the other style of ranking. For me, the 1999 Hallmark version of Alice in Wonderland provides the daytime fuzzies, the TV cozies, the movie snuggles, maybe like the intro theme song for the Eyewitness TV series, or maybe even that Magic School Bus episode where they are in the bog and learn about swamps. I give this movie a stinky cheese score of 4 out of 10 Emmys. And this is a precious 4. This is not an insulting 4. Ring of Powers gets a -1. No Emmys for them. 6 nominations is not an Emmy. Our Alice was nominated and then won. Ring of Powers have really lost their mind. Just like James Cameron in Avatar. If you squint at it and twist your head, it's actually a good movie. If you're wondering what I would consider a 10 out of 10 movie, that's easy. That would be Grandma's Boy. Now you know where my palate sits. Until next time, TV watchers. Until next time.
Fire! Wind! Water! Heart! Go planet!
By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet!